like not even villages. It's like outposts or sites with 5 houses, 3 families, things like that. There's 3 or 4 like that. The rest is all ranches. And then to the south, where the mountains are, like following the line of Beagle Channel, there's nothing. There's only some military presence, but very little, and 2 national parks. So all along the coast, there's been for decades a national park called the Agostini, and that's on a part of the Andes. I mean, just if you continue this line of mountains to the west, they get a bit higher on the Chilean side, and there's a small ice field with glaciers going down to the sea. You will actually see that. After you leave Ushuaia, you're going to the west, if I'm not wrong, right? So if you're going to the west, you'll go along Beagle Channel, let's say 2 hours, 3 hours maybe. After you leave the port of Ushuaia, you will start getting on an area where Beagle Channel splits in 2. There is the southwest branch and the northwest branch. You will take the northwest branch, and it gets narrow, very dramatic as well. The mountains, the scenery is beautiful, pristine. Nobody lives there, and you will start seeing these glaciers that come down from that small ice field. Well, that area is a national park. But between that national park and our national park is mainly forest. There's a new national park that was created 2 years ago only. So now there's 3 national parks connected. There's a huge area that is fully preserved, and we're very happy with that. The new national park in Chile, it's called Yendegaia. The old one is the Agostini, and the one in Argentina, it's called Tierra del Fuego. This is our main street, San Martin, our main square on the right-hand side. This whole block belongs to the Catholic Church, Roman Catholic Church, to the Salesian order. The Salesians, if there are any Catholics here, or if you know what I mean, the different orders like the Jesuits, the Salesians were the ones that had an important presence in Patagonia. So throughout Patagonia you will see Don Bosco, which was the head of this order, this Catholic order, Don Bosco. And there's a very interesting museum at the Salesian mission in Punta Arenas. And since you're going to go there, if you want to visit it, it's very interesting. No, Punta Arenas is not on this island. It's just across the Strait of Magellan. Punta Arenas is on the mainland. It's not on an island. There is skiing. I'll show you later. The ski resort. We are now going to visit our museum, and after the museum, we'll take the road, leave the city and take the only road that there is, and we go to the Andean crossing, and in the way back on the same road we will stop for lunch, the typical lamb barbecue lunch. This corner that is under construction that you'll see now on the right, this building was abandoned for more than 20 years. I came to Ushuaia 22 years ago and it was already abandoned. But finally, you know who got it? The Hard Rock Cafe.
Really?
There's going to be a Hard Rock Cafe here in Ushuaia. Truly, I don't know how they're going to survive, because it's a small town. We are 80,000 people. I mean, during the summer season, maybe yes, because there's lots of tourists and this is very vibrant. But then May and June, there's almost no one here. It's very quiet. And then July, August, September, we have lots of skiers, but it's not remotely as many as we have in the summertime. So we get lots of skiers, but still few people. So again, the government house, we saw it before from behind, from the coast. We keep going along the main street, sorry.
What hours are the shops open normally? 9 to 5?
Shops they open 9:30, 10 in the morning. They do siesta between 1 and 3, 1 and 4. And then they open again 3, 4 to 8 or 9 p.m. In Argentina, you know, we eat late and we go to bed late, everything. But in the morning, things start late too. In the town, there's almost nothing going on before 10. In the city, there's lots of restaurants that serve our typical dishes, like king crab or sea bass or asado, which is barbecue, beef or lamb. Lamb would be more typical here than beef, but there's both. There's chocolate shops as well, many along Main Street. And some souvenir shops too.
What's that building we just passed?
The building that we just passed is a shop, but it's very well decorated outside with figures, and there's famous characters of the history. Fitzroy, it's in one of the balconies there. There's Fitzroy, who was a cartographer in charge of an expedition to make a thorough map of Tierra del Fuego. And with that expedition is that they discovered this passage, this body of water that you have taken to get here. And they name it after one of the ships of that expedition, Beagle. And we are now approaching to Ushuaia's naval base. All of this compound to your right is the naval base. This was originally the prison of this town. So I told you the first whites here were Anglican missionaries. They came in 1869. 1884 is the first Argentines that come here to mark or to show Argentine sovereignty in this part of the world. This is a time in which both Chile and Argentina are expanding their territories to the south. Something similar to what happened to the Americans expanding to the west and taking over those lands that were not lands of the natives. Well, the same was happening more or less at the same time in Chile and Argentina. In this case, they were expanding their territories to the south, towards Cape Horn. In 1884, then, they come to Tierra del Fuego. They pick Ushuaia, they hoist our flag, and there's a few families that come here to stay here to live. But they knew that they needed to have more people to claim sovereignty, and they needed to develop this area to make it more attractive. So slowly they could build a civilian population in this part of the world. It wasn't easy, if you try to picture this, over more than 100 years ago. It wasn't easy to convince people to move to such a remote place. There was nothing here but nature. And the natives that lived here were very, at the eyes of that time, very primitive. People that lived naked, that used to spread fat from sea lions all over their bodies. They were smelly. They were eating most of the time raw meat or melting fat and drinking it. So it wasn't really very attractive for people to move to this place. The ships were coming maybe once every 6 months. The easiest way then to populate and develop was with prisoners. And they set 2 prisons, one in Ushuaia and one on another island that is part of this region, on Staten Island, same name as the island in New York. The one in Staten Island was a military prison, and the one in Ushuaia was a second offenders jail. The first building was built just like the rest of the houses in town, wooden structure and corrugated iron. But by the turn of the century, the prisoners that were here started building this building that now you can see to your right. It took them 10 years to build it. It has 380 single cells, so it's a quite large building. It has a panoptical design, which for the time was very modern. Panoptical is the aisles have a radial design, so it's like a hand, where the fingers would be the pavilions with the cells, and the palm of the hand would be the main hall connecting all 5 pavilions. That is actually what you see with these big windows. That would be the palm of the hand. Now, these pavilions are today used as a museum. Out of the 5 pavilions that the building has, 4 belong to the museum. This one here, all along, like parallel to the bus, that's where you will find the Maritime and Prisons Museum on the ground floor. So you have to walk and go all the way to the end of the aisle to get to the transversal part of the building, where originally they used to have latrines and showers on the ground floor, and the dining room on the top floor for the prisoners of that pavilion. Each pavilion had the same structure. So at the very end, you have to walk to the very end to get to the Maritime Museum. So at the end, you will find replicas of all the famous ships that have explored the area. And along the aisle, you'll find the different stories and photographs of the prisoners and life at the prison. On the first floor, but on the same aisle, you will find exhibitions related with Antarctic expeditions, which you might find interesting, and also some taxidermied birds and some mammals, also taxidermied, like sea lions. As you walk into the building, straight ahead, that would be, if we think this is a hand, would be the middle finger. That is something that I really suggest you to visit. It's what we call the historical aisle. Is the first pavilion that was built, and they kept it as it was found when they took over the building to turn it into a museum. It gives you a better idea of how life at this prison could have been. The ring finger would be between the one that has the most of the exhibits and the historical one. That's where the ring pavilion or ring finger or that pavilion is. There is an art gallery there. And the other one is a shop, a souvenir shop. And this one that you see now is the only pavilion that is not used. We don't have access to that pavilion. We will go into the building by the main hall. As you walk into the building, on the right hand side are the toilets, and at the end, at the Maritime Museum, there are also toilets.